Hey, what's up? I'm Andrew with Field Treasure Design. So behind me, I just built my friend a new bunk bed. It's gonna have pipe railing, pipe ladder, be fully collapsible, and it's just awesome. But before I show you how I made it, I've got to deliver it and install it. So let's take care of that, then I'll show you how I made it. Okay, all installed. I just finished it up, took me about 30 minutes, and so before I show you any more, I'd love to show you how I built it, so check this out. So I busted out my iPad Pro, which is actually the first time that I've used this to design and lay out a project, and I gotta say, it worked really well. So now I'm laying out all my lumber and getting everything ready to go before I make my cuts. As you can see, I'm a little bundled up because it was like 5 degrees outside. The first step was to cut all of my lumber to the right size. I sourced lumber that would be readily available at most big box stores for this project, just in case anybody else wanted to build it along with me. Next was to sand every piece. I used 220 grit sandpaper on my random orbital disc sander. The goal, obviously, to make each board as smooth as possible. Next, I grabbed my Craig K5 pocket hole jig to drill in all of the pocket holes for each board that was going to make up the headboard and footboard. Phew, all done. That was a lot of pocket holes. Next, I laid my boards out and got ready for the assembly. But before I did that, I cut 1-inch thick spacers to help me keep the boards raised to their proper height. This part's pretty self-explanatory, just a typical glue up. Now, something cool to note there is I'm using my fast cap magnetic spacers. Those are super handy when I need to make the same measurements over and over again and keep the board spaced evenly. Then I grabbed my drill and screwed in all the pocket hole screws. Also, a quick note, there's that spacer that I had cut out earlier to help me keep that board level as I attached it to one side of the post. Now it's just a matter of repeating the process all the way around the assembly. A quick tip here is to make sure to glue every side slat, because once that post goes on one, you won't have enough room to do a glue up. After one side was done, I just took it off the workbench and started the other side. After both sides were attached, it was time to fill all the holes with pocket hole plugs. It's a simple process of gluing them up, tapping them in, and then letting them dry. After they dry, you sand them and you're good to go. After I got the pocket hole plugs filled, it was time to move to the side rails. The key here was just to measure evenly, drill the holes, and use a countersink bit. That way you can get the screw head flush in the wood. After that, I drilled holes all the way through the wood to avoid the risk of splitting it. Then, of course, it's time to glue like a madman. I always try to spread the glue just so it's going to have the maximum strength when it binds together. Then I repeat the process for the next one. Since I wanted the bunk bed to be able to be taken apart and put back together really easily, I found some awesome hardware from Woodcraft. It's called knockdown bed hardware, and it's awesome because you can screw in on both sides and then it holds the joint together, but it can be easily taken apart and put back together. The key is to measure really well so that when it's time to put the bed together, all the hardware is in the right spot. After I got the side supports done, it was time to lay out the post sides and put the hardware on those. Before I committed to anchoring the hardware on the posts, I did a quick measurement check on the side slats to make sure that the width was right. Once I was good, I made my measurements and started to mount the hardware on the posts. Here's a close-up of what the post side hardware looks like. I used my sliding square to make sure the measurements were the same, and then it was just a matter of screwing them in. Then I worked my way around the posts and repeated the process. After each location, I did a quick test fit. Everything looks good. Then some more sanding just to smooth everything out and clean everything up. After sanding, I got my chamfer bit to put in my router just to add a little more detail to the top of the posts. I think that turned out pretty sweet. Just a couple more to go. Now it's time for the first dry assembly. Pretty stoked about this. I get to finally see how this knockdown hardware works. I popped just one screw into each joint just to keep it loosely assembled. Of course, then I had to do my first load test. Oh yeah! After the bed frame was all done, it was time to move into the black pipe, ladder, and railing. So I'm probably going to do a standalone video about how to make a black pipe ladder because it was really challenging and I learned a lot. The Cliff Notes version is you get one side done and then you work on the other side. Then you lay them together and you twist each pipe into the other connector. Yes, I did it! Now it's time to make the elbows and attach the flanges that will be used to attach it to the bunk bed. And I'll definitely hook you up with all the details of the sizes and shapes on my website. Next was to assemble the top bunk railing. Luckily, this went a little bit more smooth since I'd already had a little practice and there wasn't nearly as many joints. Test fit, success, and I was pretty stoked.
Yes! 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 Whoa! Yes!
Finally, it was time to paint and prime. I actually went with Behr paint and primer. I know you can see Kills sitting there, but I actually ended up not using it as I didn't need the extra step. I decided to apply 2 coats of the Behr paint, and I gotta tell you, it went on really, really great. It is a quality product. You can find Behr paint at the Home Depot. After the second coat of paint dried, it was time to measure out the slats that was gonna hold the mattress on the top bunk. I measured them out equally, and then I grabbed some polypropylene webbing that I'm gonna show you what I do with it here in a second. So I cut 2 strips the same length of the mattress of the bed. I went ahead and grabbed a lighter and burned the edges just to keep those fibers intact. I hopped over to the miter saw to cut a couple of blocks that are going to be the stops for what I'm about to show you. I did a quick countersink drill hole so that I could screw them in without splitting the wood. I then placed one on each corner. This is going to serve as a stop block for each outside slat that holds the mattress. I then grab my webbing and attach it with a stapler. The great thing about this is now it equally spaces out the slats, which means if you move the bed around, you don't have to remeasure or relay out the slats. Now all I have to do is roll up the slats, and when I take them over to install the bed, I just roll them back out. Next, I grabbed 600 grit sandpaper and just did a nice rough pass around all of the areas just to really smooth out the bed. I then disassembled the bed, and I wanted to make sure and paint all the areas that I couldn't get to when I painted the bed while it was assembled. So I took a few minutes and touched up the areas that I had missed on the first pass. After everything dried, it was time to take it over and assemble it at my friend's house. I wanted to kind of show you the process of building the bunk bed. It took about 30 minutes in real time. And again, being able to break it down and reassemble it in a timely and easy manner was a huge factor in designing and building this bed. Here's a close-up of the knockdown bed hardware in action. It's just a couple of bolts to secure it to the post. I then installed the slats. You can see how that webbing makes it so easy. Just roll it out. And boom, there it is. I tossed the mattress in so that I could make sure that the height of my railing was going to be correct. A quick install is all it takes because those flanges have 4 holes in each of them, so they are very strong. Next was the pipe ladder. How awesome is that? Same install, just screw in through all the holes, that way it's ultra strong. And of course I had to test it out. And there it is, the bunk bed with black pipe ladder and railing. Well, I hope you enjoyed this project and it inspired you to make something on your own. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay connected with me on all my future projects. See you later.